Well, y'all, it's happened. The Netflix Magic the Gathering series is officially dead. I will have a link to this article in the description of the video, but this is from Collider. If you guys don't remember, a long time ago, like one of the first videos I ever did on this channel, we were talking about how this was just announced, that originally it was the Russo brothers who were brought in to do an animated series for Netflix for Magic the Gathering. And it was mostly supposed to be around the Gatewatch and all this, and it just kept getting tossed around. And I kept being hopeful, because I know that that just happens in Hollywood and in film, that someone gets brought on to do a project, and for one reason or another, it gets passed on to someone else, and so on and so forth. And what's really disappointing, we'll get to this later on in the article, but they actually ended up with a pretty good team working on the show, and it is officially dead. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but I'm going to highlight a couple of the main points. Again, if you want to read the full thing yourself, you can check it out in the description. But apparently, Brandon Routh, who is this gentleman here, this guy here, he was like Superman at one point. He's been in a bunch of TV shows and whatnot. He was brought on to be Gideon Jura, and he actually recorded a bunch of his lines for the show. He was sitting down doing an interview for his new movie Ick that's coming out, in which he was asked about the show, and here's his little quote from that. "I'm not sure I did a voice for it. As far as I understood, nobody's put out a press release about it, but apparently it's not happening. It's kind of old news. I'm not sure why it's surfacing again." But yeah, basically that's people on the inside basically saying, yeah, it's for sure not happening anymore. And the reason for it is that Netflix was canceling a bunch of their animated shows just to cut costs, which this is frustrating for me for a lot of reasons, because anyone who pays attention to the film industry knows that Netflix is a failed business model, because they just throw money at everything and expect it to bring in more people, but they greenlight all sorts of just ridiculous projects that cost way too much money, and based on their subscriber base, like what they charge, how many people are on, it's a losing proposition. Like, Netflix is guaranteed to just continue to lose money, which is why they have recently restructured how that you can be subscribed, and then also they have the different tiers for subscriptions, and overall it's just gone up in price. This is why. It's because it's a failed business model. And so the fact that we nerds have to suffer the consequences of Netflix bad decision making for years is really frustrating to me. What's even more frustrating to me is this who was working on it. And we had a really good team. We had originally the Russo brothers were on it. That got passed out pretty quickly. Russo brothers, they're movie directors. Most notably, they did like several of the Avenger movies. We have Henry Gilroy from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which anyone who knows me knows I'm a big Star Wars guy. I think Clone Wars is some of the best Star Wars media ever made. Jeff Klein from Transformers Prime was the most recent thing that I had heard. A story editor was apparently Steve Melching from Star Wars Rebels, which I know a lot of people didn't like Rebels as much as a lot of the other Star Wars shows, just because of the slightly different animation style, and it seemed a little bit more focused for younger audiences. But actually, if you think about it in like the grand scale of what it meant for Star Wars, I actually did really enjoy Rebels, and I thought the writing on it specifically was really good. Even if it was targeted for a younger audience, I thought it was well done and brought a lot of good stuff to Star Wars. And then it goes into more specifics about like who is working in the art department and stuff, so you can check that out if you would like. Most notably, apparently, I kind of had missed this, but apparently Magic was supposed to get a movie done by 20th Century Fox, done by Brian Cogman from Game of Thrones, but then it got canceled when Disney acquired the studio. So I kind of had missed that. I don't know if I had just forgotten about it because that was so long ago, and you know how the internet works and how Magic works, that things... Did you know that that would have been like right before the pandemic? And that feels like a million years ago. That's even another layer of disappointment. We could have had a full film, which, you know, would that have been better or worse than an animated miniseries? Who's to say? But yeah, it's just really disappointing. Oh, here it is. Ick, his new movie coming out September 7th. Oh, that's already happened. That's out now. So, okay, here's why I covered this, because a lot of people are going to point out that this is
probably old news. We probably knew that this was coming for a long time because we had gone so long without any proper update from anyone in the art department, anyone on the writing team, anyone who's directing. We've gone so long. We even had so little of the actual cast announced. Like it had been so long since we had gotten any real updates, so that this probably should have been a given. We probably should have known this was going to happen. And that's true. I think that's valid. But it's depressing because I think Magic's greatest problem is reaching into mainstream, and the best way to do that is a show. What does Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh have above Magic the Gathering? Even if you go back, there's other games like Beyblade's kind of a game. There's Bakugan had it. Like, what do all of these things have in common is that they have a show. They have a show that reaches a new audience and can bring people in to play the game. And I don't mean to, knock crap on any of those other IPs, but their show is really what propped them up and brought in people. It's that they had decent stories and it was fun. Not to say that those games aren't good, but they're not Magic the Gathering, all right? Magic the Gathering, yes, is maybe has a little bit of a more difficult entry point than those other games, but it is a greater game. It is a more entertaining and rewarding to play game. And I feel like it's very sad that we haven't had the mainstream appeal that these other games have had. And I think a large part of that is we haven't had a show or a movie or anything like that. So it's just really frustrating that there at this point have been multiple scenarios in which we could have had a Magic the Gathering show or movie, and it just hasn't happened. And the fact that Netflix is finally cutting some costs and cutting back on some projects, that's good for them. That they need to do that. They should have been doing that for the last 10 years or something when they realized that their business model was a bunch of crap. But the fact that we now, as Magic the Gathering fans, have to suffer the consequences of those long-term bad decisions is really upsetting, because it probably could have been really good for the game and could have helped the game grow even more than it already has over the last few years. But anyways, those are my thoughts on that. It's upsetting, but yeah, if you want to read this whole article, I have it linked in the top of the description. I don't do a lot of this Magic news stuff, but if you'd like to see more of it, let me know. They're pretty easy and quick to film, so I wouldn't mind doing them more often if it's something you guys would care to see. And sorry for no podcast this week. Our recording schedule got kind of wonky, so we'll be back. The next 2 episodes are going to be Duskmourn related, so make sure you're subscribed and tune in for those if you would like. I will see you guys later. Bye.